Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, right. You don't believe it.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Bateman?
Here.
Mr. Blair?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Rory?
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Here.
Mr. King?
Here.
Welcome, everyone. With us tonight, we have our Director of Finance, Mark Medler, Assistant City Manager, Corey Wright, Clerk of Council, Misty Clark, City Manager, Dave Kennedy, City Solicitor, Joe Braun, Fire Chief, Ott Huber, our Police Chief, Michael Gabrielson, also our Director of Public Works, Scott Wisby, and our Permit Specialist, Becky Knoll. Who else do we have here? We have and many esteemed members of our fire department that we will meet shortly. Also, former council members Todd Osborne and Pat Mays. I think I forgot everyone. So welcome, everyone. Glad to have you here. And with that, Mr. Wisby.
Thank you for not having us follow the fire department. So this is Brian Singleton. He is a lifelong resident of the city, former U.S. Marine. Comes to us with a lot of knowledge in every background. Hit the ground running. He's a great guy, and we're proud to have him. So We're here to swear him in.
All right. So just so you know, sir, we do this because we don't always get to meet our new employees otherwise, and we like to know who you are, have you know who we are. We are a pretty small staff, really, for the community we have. And so the staff we have do a lot. So we depend on you greatly, and we look to you to wear the emblem of the city of Loveland proudly and make us proud. So we're glad to have you. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Ryan Singleton,
Solemnly swear that I will
solemnly swear that I will
support the Constitution of the United States,
support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances
and the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Loveland,
of the City of Loveland,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of maintenance worker upon which I am about to enter.
of maintenance worker upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Glad to
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. We got 3 of them.
Glad you're with us. Thanks for your service.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, colleague.
Brian, well.
Oh. You think we would know?
Yeah. How you doing? All right. Next we have. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you for having us tonight. We're here to recognize some of the actions of some of our members that they made on a critical incident in September. I'm going to read a little bit about the incident, and then we have some recognition to give to these members. In the early morning hours of Friday, September 16th, 2022, LSFD crews were dispatched to a reported structure fire at 1025 West Main Street. Initial crews arrived on scene within 3 minutes and reported a working structure fire with possible victims inside. LSFD members were familiar with the interior layout of this residence due to previous calls for service at this residence. Crews quickly deployed hand lines to attack the fire and search for victims. A victim was located and rescued from a bedroom and transferred to firefighters on the exterior of the structure. Firefighters began performing life-saving medical care in the front yard of the residence prior to transferring care to the EMS unit on scene. These firefighters administered a cyano kit to the victim, which is indicated for the treatment of known or suspected cyanide poisoning. The cyano kit is an expensive medication that is typically only administered in low-frequency, high-risk incidents. Fortunately, LSFD has chosen to keep a cyano kit in stock for several years. Due to the significant cost and quick expiration, some agencies aren't able to stock these critical medications. The victim was quickly transported to Bethesda North Hospital and stabilized before transferring to the University of Cincinnati Burn Center, where he later succumbed to his injuries. The quick actions of all responding members on this incident contributed to providing the best possible outcome for the victim. The coordinated teamwork that accomplished fire suppression, search and rescue, emergency medical services, and the support work are a clear example of these members carrying out the mission, vision, and values of the Loveland Sims Fire Department. So with that, we'd like to award the Courage in the Line of Duty Award to the following members. First, we have Captain John Edichico. And we're going to do a big group picture at the end. Next is Deputy Chief Mike Books. Deputy Chief Billy Goldfeder. Captain Christian Miller. Firefighter Paramedic Hunter Long. Captain Andy Pridemore. Firefighter Aaron Swain. Milford Firefighter Paramedic Anthony Smith. Milford Firefighter EMT Carly Eggmeyer. Captain Brian Ayers. Captain Ray Carthen.
Well done.
Firefighter Khalid Gray.
Great job. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Firefighter Jacob Shelley.
Congratulations.
Firefighter Sam Keegan.
From Milford. Thank you. Great job.
Firefighter Chris Hildebrandt. Firefighter Tristan Fields.
Great job.
And Captain Brian Hall.
Congratulations. Great job. Great job, sir. Great job. Great job. Thank you. Congratulations. That's really good.
Are we able to get that many in a picture? Are we able to get that many in film? Okay.
May I say something?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, sir.
So just we as a council and the staff of this city and certainly our community recognize what an outstanding fire department we have and how lucky we are to have this fire department and our partners that helped out on this night. So we are grateful for everything that you do. We know what you put yourselves in the fire, if you will, on a regular basis, and we're very proud of you and very happy that you're here serving this community. So thank you for everything you do, and congratulations on this award. We're going to try to get a group picture, so the council, let's stay up top, but if the rest of you can try to squeeze in the front, we'll see if we can get everybody in.
No, we're staying here.
I really don't have a good camera.
Try to listen.
He doesn't take instructions.
I guess not.
Back up for this picture.
Yeah. We're going to have to get in. I'm a little push chairs. Yeah.
Do what with them?
Right.
Stay here. Well, it's just about them. Sure. Take us out.
How about a round of applause for the family and friends? Thank you all. being here. Is that loud enough?
That's good.
Well, that's not-
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's why. Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you, Becky.
Mail them to her tomorrow. Oh.
Just before. Yeah. It's real good.
Did I forget the fire chief of Milford? I did. I forgot to recognize the fire chief of Milford.
Well, I mean, you do when you call the roll.
No, I didn't. I totally forgot to do it. I didn't. I need like a string on my finger.
Can't expect.
Sorry, Chief. What in the world? I said if I forgot anybody.
You covered it.
Well, that cleared out quick. All right. Well, we don't have open forum, so move directly to review and approval of minutes. Is there any comments, changes to the minutes from the February 28th meeting?
To approve as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. And we do have a public hearing. Do we have a motion to open this public hearing? It's on page 24.
I'll move that we open the public hearing, case number 2022-09, proposed zoning text amendment to Chapter 1107, definitions, Chapter 1111, enforcement, Chapter 1156, table of permitted uses, and Chapter 1165, general zoning regulations of the Planning and Zoning Code regulating mobile food vendors.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
No one has signed up to speak, so we have a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, next is a resolution. Why don't you go ahead and read the resolution?
Resolution increasing the compensation for the clerk of council.
So the council does review the work that the clerk of council does for council itself, which is a small portion of the work that the clerk does, which is why the amount of money reflected here is because it is a small portion. But Mr. Kennedy does the bulk of the review of
Yes.
Mrs. Clark's performance. Is there any comments on this resolution? I just want to thank Mrs. Clark. You do a fantastic job for this council, and everything you do is really above and beyond, in my opinion.
I think you take for granted a lot of the things that are happening before these meetings begin, and those are the side of the clerk. Because people know Misty is also assistant to city manager's position, so she takes on many tasks. But these things just don't always happen the way they do, and then she's a joy to work with. So it's well deserved.
All right. Anyone else?
Just would like to make it more public. Thank you.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Oh, hell yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Resolution 28 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
All right, Mr. Kennedy.
So in the 2023 operating budget CIP, Capital Improvement Program, we included a purchase for what at the time I titled mini ambulance, but what its actually technical name is, it's called a UTV, which is a utility train vehicle. The best way to describe a UTV is you take a single patient compartment from an ambulance and affix it to the back of a ATV side by side. nimbleness, the ability to get in and out is pretty important. Chief Huber is going to be here to answer some questions. I just wanted to go over some of the details in this. They've become extremely popular. Originally, they were mostly popular in more of the wildlife, the wilderness, getting hikers and stranded, and quickly realized how much valuable they could be in a community with downtown events, downtown everything you have, throw in sporting events and so on and so forth. When we put in the budget, the reason why it was 50% was Chief Huber had made arrangements with the city of Mason to co-share the cost of the unit we're looking to get as a MedStat M5 500, which is ideal for this city in terms of being able to be in the community, be here for events. I did a little research, and I thought that, and Chief Huber's memo is attached to touch on sort of what brought about the need for this, how our downtown has grown, and I reached out to a neighboring fire chief who had purchased the unit for his community, and he was, of course, very, very excited about it. He made a couple points that stuck home. One of them is he said they were surprised that it also served for them during hot events. They use it as a cooling center. But one of the things that he had mentioned, and I found a quote in Firehouse magazine, was that where they don't go out every day, but when they do, they're extremely valuable to the community, which I think sort of reasserted the city's position to co-share this particular unit. One of the reasons you'll see where it's titled to the city of Mason, big part of that is largely because they're going to be responsible for all the transport. They have the trailer and the equipment that will be able to take it to wherever we need it anytime. Otherwise, the agreement's pretty black and white. We'll co-share the cost of maintenance. We'll co-insurance. It'll be marked to represent both teams, and it is exclusively for the use of Loveland and Mason. I'll let you direct any questions that you might have to Chief Huber. I can handle some, but obviously this is something he's very, very knowledgeable on.
I did have just one. I think I have the answer, but others might wonder this. I was worried about, for example, 4th of July, because that's such a big holiday here, and does Mason have the same holiday? But according to Mr. Kennedy, they do not celebrate on that day.
No, they do not. They have a weekend celebration, generally speaking, before the 4th of July. So was it 7 years before you get leap year? So we could wind up having a problem on the 7th year, but it would be one of those things that we would work out.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Bateman.
It's somewhat related, I think, in terms of it mentions in the memo that it's going to be co-located in Loveland and Mason. So
right, the city of Mason doesn't have the entertainment district like we have here. So during the summer, it would be located at the 2nd Street Fire Station here, because that's when our busy time is in the city of Loveland. So it'd be located here so that we wouldn't have to transport it back and forth. We'd have quick access because we have events every weekend in the city of Loveland, and they don't have. They have special events such as their Heritage Festival or their 4th of July Festival.
So it's kind of like best deployed and staged when needed in anticipation of large events, things like that. That's when Mason would be borrowing it or using their share of it.
Well, plus the ATP, the golf outings and things like that occur in the city of Mason. There are big, large events with a lot of people that, obviously can't drive a great big ambulance across the 9th hole. The groundskeeper gets a little upset with that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Just wanted to commend the chief insofar as, I was surprised at the total price tag, but was even more pleasantly surprised that we'll only have to pay for half of it. And I think this is a good, intra-community project that will benefit both of us.
And thank you, Vice Mayor. We try our best to do co-sharing with our mutual aid partners as much as we can. It's not just the city of Mason. We do that on many different projects with many different communities. And because of that, we're able to get significant cost savings. with doing regionalization like that, we're eligible for more federal grants than we would have ever been eligible for. So we've been receiving thousands of dollars every year in eligible grants. Last year, we got about $250,000 for a regional grant that we did with City of Blue Ash, City of Mason, Sims Township, Loveland, Goshen, City of Milford, Miami Township, where we do a leadership training. So, anytime that we can do that, it's a good sharing and good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. So there's sometimes there are things that are just out of the reach of a smaller community like us. And so sharing with our neighbors brings those assets and that availability to our community that normally we would be unable to afford on our own.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Ping.
Couple of questions. One, Loveland Sims Fire Department. So there's not a Sims component to this. Is Sims not going to use this vehicle at all?
It could use like any other asset that we have in the fire department. We share our fire department with Sims Township. So it would be eligible or available, if you will, for emergencies in Sims Township. They purchase and provide things that we don't participate in the city of Loveland. So and I just have to balance those, if you will. An example, we use their ladder truck, their 100-foot ladder truck, which is a $2.2 million ladder truck versus the $1.2 million ladder truck we have here. They use our rescue truck. Actually, our city rescue truck actually resides in a township fire station. So it's a balance of that we have to keep in track when we do these programs.
And you mentioned that I guess in the summertime, the vehicle would be primarily housed here in downtown. It's not. Is this a roadworthy vehicle that if you needed to have it at the Sims Home of the Brave Park for an event, can it drive up there?
Oh yeah,
we can be transported by trailer.
Yes. No, we could drive it locally. It's just you wouldn't want to put it off as on the interstate or anything like that. It wouldn't.
Right.
But it is a roadworthy licensed vehicle.
I guess the thing that surprises me is it would seem like this vehicle would be best suited towards, as the memo says, sporting events, summer events, that kind of thing. Just as a curiosity, why is Mason interested in letting us have a vehicle that primarily is a summer use vehicle and we get it all the time? I mean, is there...
Well, you have like I said, they have large events like the tennis events that they have there, the golf events that they have there. So it keeps them from having to tie up an ambulance to sit at those events. And so their ambulances can remain in service to serve the community. And so they could have special events going on at Kings Island or something like that. So they would be able to use it for those events. Primarily, the events that occur here are short duration, weekend, one-day events that occur in the city.
And during that period, they would come get it from here, transport it to where they need it, and then they would bring it back immediately after that.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a shared service agreement for the purchase of an alternative support apparatus.
Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Resolution 29 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. So the resolution you have before you is to authorize the purchase and installation of the second LED sign at the Commerce Park, authorizing expenditure of $44,740 for that. The city installed its first watch fire sign at the Loveland Madera Road Gateway last year as part of a multi-year budgetary program approach to install these signs throughout the city. And so with that, in the 2023 operating budget, we did include a request for a second LED sign at the Commerce Park. Originally, the design, the Commerce Park, a couple of reasons: high traffic counts on Union Cemetery. It's one of our northernmost points, so we can engage people, and it helps advance the city's current economic development interests. In that, we looked at this location The design of that included some masonry columns. The masonry columns were really too expensive to fabricate. It was a significant cost over and above what with the Watchfire, because it's a double-faced sign. So there's a revised design on that, and so you'll be able to capture traffic heading in both directions. So looking at that, why is it a Watchfire sign? Watchfire is the current platform that we use for our sign now with the message center. It's very successful. We have, in my prior community, we also deployed Watchfire, and it's a great platform because you have multiple pages and you're really not limited, and it can be managed remotely in that. So the proposal itself, Atlantic Sign was the low proposal, $43,365. There's an additional $1,375 in contingency. The design, as you can see, is more streamlined, more representative of a corporate campus approach. Again, it does result in a little bit of value engineering on that. And we also get some promotional pricing with Watchfire, which is really unheard of in the LED market. So really this request is to authorize this expenditure, and we can move forward with ordering the sign and get it installed. So,
any comments or questions?
Will the existing signs come down that say Loveland Commerce Center?
Yes, we would actually use existing in-house, forces to demo that.
One of the signs would come down.
The V sign that's in the median now, that's where this sign would go.
Yeah, that's where this sign goes. But Kathy made a good point. I didn't catch it either, was that our current sign says West Entrance, and maybe we can have Atlantic signs, add that just in case that's what deliveries and trucks are looking for. I never caught it.
So on the
I wrote a
bottom,
note to remind you tomorrow, but I would.
Yeah, on the bottom of that cabinet, we can get them to put, West Entrance on that, and that would be very easy to do. So,
well, I appreciate bringing in the logo and the colors, because a number of people said, "Oh, I didn't know that's part of the city of Loveland," even though there's a sign that says Loveland Commerce Center. Yeah, they just thought it was like Cincinnati something that it's not
right.
If I can just add one thing, Corey and I were talking about was Krista will have the same software will run this.
It's the Watchfire platform,
and she has the ability to do different items. So if she wanted to, at default,
it can
run logos for Mike's Car Wash. Any of that would be
Yep, you can run multiple pages. It's total remote. You can. I don't know if you can do it on a smartphone, but if you have a laptop, you can get into it. It's really very, very user-friendly software, and get the logos imported, the pages imported. It'll be nice to have that interaction on the northern part of the community for sure. So,
Mr. Payne?
Just as a curiosity, is the intent to have the same messages being played on both signs at this, or are they going to be different at each location?
You can do so. I think you can do both. I think that in some respects, the messages, the PSAs that the city puts out, we would want those to be consistent. And I know that when we manage those in my other community, we would have the same consistent messages. But then, since the police department annex had one, they could have customized messages that would scroll as well. Like, take your valuables out of your car or whatever, or messages like that. And similarly with Commerce Park, you'd be able to have, for that economic development benefit, to have those company logos, because a lot of people you don't know who's back there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a real asset for the Commerce Park to be able to demonstrate that. So,
thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I think that is a good point, Vice Mayor. I mean, everyone in the 45140 zip code seems to call themselves Loveland,
right.
Even if they're not. So really, Loveland Commerce Center doesn't mean much. Now it will. So that's correct. All right, let's go ahead and read the resolution.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Atlantic Sign Company for the purchase and installation of the Loveland Commerce Park Community Message Center LED sign.
Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Resolution 30 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the actual food truck. We had the public hearing on it. This is the food truck ordinance. This would be the first reading of the ordinance to adopt the food truck regulations. Really, and just to be brief, because we've sort of talked about it over and over again, Planning and Zoning Commission did a really good job with this, really diving in on that with the public involvement, the work sessions and all of that. and got to a set of regulations that I think achieves multiple goals, which came out of the survey and public involvement, which was how do we regulate them? And then at the same time, encourage or allow them in limited instances. And so I really credit them to working through that. So the ordinance is, it will establish new rules for that. It has district specific rules based on commercial or residential. The memorandum discusses it, almost ad nauseum, no pun intended, but it is, I think that this is a good start and really a good change from the current framework that we have and really responsive to that. So the request is for council to, the commission recommended adoption as presented. So the request is for council to adopt the ordinance as presented. So.
All right, Mr. Bateman, do you want to weigh in?
I would like to thank Mr. Wright for his work on this as well. I think that it was as well as the city, the citizens and residents that sort of jump-started this. I think we had an application for a mobile food truck that sort of kick-started this debate and the desire to go into the code and reconfigure it a little bit. I think we were living, as Mr. Kennedy has called it, sort of the Wild West of food trucks, and we weren't really sure. The exceptions were becoming the rule, and we saw ourselves at a point where if we continued down that path, we would be opening the door for anyone to put a food truck anywhere. And so we took the chance to codify it, to create a flexibility. I think it really does a good job of being reasonable with what the public said they wanted in terms of desiring to have food trucks in the downtown for special events, but also limiting that the ability to put a food truck in as a permanent or ancillary kitchen. There's a lot of grandfathering that goes on for current businesses that are deploying mobile food vendors, and then there's a lot of flexibility regarding future uses. So I think it really covered all the bases. Providing guidelines without being too restrictive to businesses. And again, I think Mr. Wright did a really great job of sort of collecting and collating all of that feedback and putting it into something that is much, much more responsive and refined than what we'd had before.
All right. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Blair.
Just a question for Mr. Wright and can you give me a sense of what the overall and Mr. Bateman, what was the overall number of public input you had, just out of curiosity, and what were their concerns?
Well, we had a couple of different working sessions with the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I don't know the exact count. It was well attended.
Okay.
And then the other part of that was we conducted a multi-week survey, and there were more than 300 unique responses.
Great.
For an online survey, which is very good for an electronic survey.
Okay.
And the overwhelming response was, we want food trucks.
Okay, great.
Be able to have them. So
thank you for your efforts on that.
All right. Anyone else? Vice Mayor?
If I hate to overgeneralize here, but the I think most significant change that I can perceive is that the general rule will now be that every food truck has the right to be in one place for a day.
That's a good, yes, they have to get a permit, and that process is administrative. And then there's a certain time limitation on those permits and how many you can stack them. And then there's also time, manner, and place restrictions on number, the lot size, and the setbacks and all that. So it's done in an orderly fashion. So,
but it was in part meant to address a food truck that sat at one location for months on end.
Right. And under the regulations, they can string some permits together, but they can't be there all the time. So,
thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Read the ordinance, please.
Ordinance amending Chapter 1107 Definitions, Chapter 1111 Enforcement, Chapter 1156 Table of Permitted Uses, and Chapter 1165 General Zoning Regulations of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Loveland, Ohio.
Thank you. Mr. Braun?
Thank you. We also are presenting for a first reading tonight an ordinance that amends Section 35120
This relates to parking in the city of Loveland, paid parking. Chief Gabrielson and myself and his staff that helps to operate the mayor's court have been looking at downtown parking. As you know, we've made some changes that I think I just want to point out for the general public that might be listening. Number one, in an effort to help identify the areas that are paid versus unpaid parking in downtown, we've painted them a highly identifiable color so that there's no confusion about which spaces are paid and which are not. And the city manager's office has also installed some signage. One of the other changes, though, that we're bringing to you tonight is that we would like to reduce the payout fine for the paid parking from $70 to $25. This is a culmination of us looking at other communities and looking at the process administratively and otherwise with our court. And I certainly Chief Gabrielson can weigh in on it, but I think it was the general consensus that we felt it was appropriate that the fine for the paid parking should be $25. We felt that it was more equitable and more reasonable under the circumstances.
Chief, did you want to weigh in?
Yes, just briefly. Again, we're not trying to be punitive. The whole purpose of the paid parking is to get the turnover. And what we were seeing with the $75 fines is that we had a considerable increase in the number of citizens that were coming to court. Number one, it was just, the fine itself was an issue for them to pay monetarily, just given the circumstances in the economy. So we want to encourage people to pay for parking. There is going to be a consequence for it, but just the $70+ fine we felt was too steep. So we hope that they'll take advantage of the payout versus coming to court, tying up the court's time. And then the overall financial burden on someone, again, is to gain compliance so that in the future they will pay for the parking, the low-cost parking that we do have, and not be such a punitive or a hardship on those that are in violation.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
One other thing I want to add, because I prosecute mayor's court and my office does, and Chief Gabrielson is frequently there, we began to see patterns and things as it related to the offenses and the payouts and the fines. I also would say to council, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that are going on right now with paid parking. In the past, we had situations where people were typing in their license plate number incorrectly, or entering wrong zones, or not having data entry correct, and we're putting in place some what we've considered to be some safeguards to help watch for things like that. We're also going to have, when appropriate, outside of peak hours, warnings and things like that. So there's more than what you're seeing in this ordinance being amended, but the part that we need from you is to lower that fine. We think it would be best for the program overall.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions? Yes.
Just a question for Chief. On a monthly basis, I'm just curious, how many tickets do we issue?
I'm going to have to get back to you with the number. We've had a period of time where we had a moratorium while we were working through this process. So we're just now getting back into, and obviously over the winter, parking other than weekends isn't really an issue during.
Is it significant, or is it really light?
Again, the primary purpose for us, again, the exact number, I would have to get back with the exact number. But the majority of our enforcement is going to be during peak hours, during events, on a Tuesday evening where nobody's down here. The intent is to encourage the turnover, not as a revenue generator. So, but we do get down here when we can during the peak hours, during events, and to encourage and turnover. So,
thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions, Vice Mayor?
Mr. Braun, I'm certain of the answer to this, but I want to make sure. By this change to the parking violation ordinances does not affect the ability of anybody to contest or come forward with a reason why they shouldn't be found to have committed a violation of the parking.
Absolutely not. All of the normal due process procedural safeguards are still in place if someone feels strongly. It really came about as a result of trends we were seeing, and kind of looking at this. As you know, you introduced this as a pilot program, and then you adopted it permanently. I would consider this part of the natural evolution.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
I'll just say I'm grateful for the evolution of something like this. I mean, for us to go through this process a few years ago, to make a commitment to with the intent to encourage turnover in an area where is a well-known issue, to see this evolve into a point where we're lowering that payment threshold as a result of trends. I have gratitude for you for doing that. So thanks for that, and hopefully this will further cement the intent and continue what I see as successful in terms of the ability to encourage turnover during those peak opportunities.
All right. Anyone else? Read the ordinance, please.
Ordinance creating section 351.20 of the codified ordinances of Loveland.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
So, as everyone knows, we're largely governed by our charter and our ordinances. In 2019, the city, actually led by Vice Mayor Phelps and included both Todd and Pat in the audience, we spent 13 months rewriting the charter, which was passed somewhat overwhelmingly by our residents. One provision that was put in there that is largely forgotten, it's near the end of the charter, is that the city is required to every 10 years review the charter, which was a nice addition. Ordinances are a little different. The changes from the ordinances largely come from Corey and I talking, Misty and I talking, Joe pointing out something. It's more or less a day in the life as we find things that need to be amended, and whether or not it's at what level that then is, do I take it to law and ordinance or do I not? And so we sort of work our way through that. This one deals with the composition and control of the Police Division 13101. It's not earth-shattering. To me, it just sort of looks sloppy. It also looks a little too restrictive. So it currently is not, it's not reflective of our numbers. It's also not reflective of our positions. We don't have sergeants anymore, and we also now have a police captain. So in an effort to clean this up and not come back every time there's a resignation, a promotion, or a retirement, we reviewed many different options. Todd supplied me with some. And at the end of the day, the vast majority of them keep it simple. And it's simply my proposal that we've presenting to you is simply to say the police department shall be composed of a chief of police appointed by the city manager and such other officers and personnel as may be authorized by council. You have to remember two important components here. The schedule of municipal positions, of which you set every 3 years and then change throughout the years, sets the parameters and the numbers and the wage schedule for every non-bargaining employee. That's Chief Gabrielson. That's everyone who's not part of our collective bargaining agreement. That's Tina, and so on and so forth. The police officers, the collective bargaining, our lieutenants and our officers are set by the budget. You give me amount of money to spend, that dictates what it is. I use the word may as to not eliminate your ability to say, we only want this many officers. You want to reassert what's in the budget. So I know it's only a sentence, but I think it cleans it up. It doesn't hold us. It makes us be responsible for the budget. And we don't have to run back here and pass an ordinance, 6 months, 2 readings, a 30-day review. It allows us to have a little more freedom. So that's all it is. I'm just presenting that for a first reading. I am working my way through all the various codes. They'll either come in lumps or they'll come individually. But when we do these, we try to clean up our operations. It's something that we all discuss regularly in this building. So that's all I had.
Any comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Payton.
Just a curiosity. Do we know why the ordinance originally had the numbers listed in it?
I know that Todd probably does. To me, all I've done in my time here, Councilmember Ping, is I added the provision the city manager may, upon formal notice, temporarily exceed. Even that is only temporarily for 6 months. I sort of question why it is so specific. I like to think it was, but you guys ask us to manage the city. You give us a budget. This seems a little overreach. So that's really why we're just cleaning this up.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. We'll go ahead and read the ordinance.
Ordinance amending section 131.01 of the codified ordinances of Loveland.
All right. Next ordinance is ordinance amending the employment agreement to increase the annual compensation of Mr. Kennedy. Once a year, we are given the privilege as a council to evaluate Mr. Kennedy's performance, which is sort of silly because I think everybody in this community knows what a fantastic city manager we have. I've said it many times, but we truly are the envy of many communities, especially here in Claremont County, where Mr. Kennedy is so well known that we somehow have been lucky enough to keep Mr. Kennedy here doing the wonderful work that he does for the city for this length of time. So very happy to introduce this ordinance, and very happy to Mr. Kennedy deserves certainly what this increase represents. We Mr. Braun was kind enough last year to sort of did a study for us of all surrounding communities and what their city managers were paying. It was very easy to compare given our community size and put together the factors and see that this is certainly well in line with what city managers in surrounding communities are making and well deserved. Does anyone else have any comments they wish to make? All right, you want to read the ordinance?
Ordinance amending the employment agreement to increase the annual compensation of City Manager David Kennedy.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Clark.
Council submitted one nominee for the Business Enhancement Award. That was Saul Pilates. And they also submitted one nominee for the Lewis G. Rockwood Community Service Volunteer Award. And that was Lisa Freeman. To move forward, just need a motion of council to accept those nominations.
I move to accept the nominations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Well, congratulations, Mrs. Freeman. When we present this award, we will wax poetic for all to hear. But congratulations.
But it's a great T-shirt.
There's no T-shirts. Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I have before you this evening a notice of final action and a request for City Council to set a public hearing for to initiate or to consider the formal zoning map and text amendment for SPD 19, which is the Oak Street development. So sort of a long time coming here. The commission, the applicant did file the application to amend the zoning. As you know, council adopted the prior resolution. And so in August of last year, they finally filed the application to rezone. Planning Commission reviewed it, adopted findings of fact in that, and recommended the SPD for the adoption for the zoning change portion. So this is the second component of the two-step process. So with that, I'm requesting that council set a public hearing for Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at or about 7:00 p.m. to consider adoption of the formal zoning map and text amendment for SPD number 19.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Bateman, do you have anything you wish to weigh in?
Just that this is again another example, I think, of local government working the way it's supposed to, in the sense that this case or this property specifically has been quite a saga, really, probably almost 3 years in the making, in terms of the number of times that they have come before planning and zoning with different proposals. Those were denied or tabled or sent back, and here we are finally with one that makes good use of the special planning district in the planning and zoning's opinion, reconciling the split zoning that's taking place between the historic district and the residential medium density that exists on the hillside. It preserves in many ways the integrity of that hillside through that process, and again, just by anecdotally, the number of people that appeared before planning and zoning the first time this property came before versus the most recent time, couldn't be more night and day in terms of the work that the developer has done in terms of getting the neighborhood to understand and sort of go. I don't want to say go along with, but buy in to get their the community buy-in in the neighborhood where this development intends to go. So again, just last I guess it was earlier this month we forwarded this notification to council and are looking forward to completing this step following the public hearing.
Thank you. Does anybody think yes?
I think this follows in the tradition of the careful and orderly and search for the appropriate development that we followed with Chimney Ridge. We kissed a lot of frogs to get to that prince, and I think that the development that we're looking at here on Oak Street is another example of that. They look great. I've been told that the prices on those things are in $700,000 to start, and I guess I intend to vote for it and enthusiastically support it. But I think we're in danger of pricing ourselves out of our own community. And I at some point would like to see a discussion or some conversation around the notion of the portion of the master plan that takes into account some of the other neighborhoods in the community, and how we can make sure that places like the Heights and the lower end apartment complexes retain their affordability, so the people that work here can afford to live here, rather than see us edged closer and closer to become an Indian Hill. It's just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
I'll make the motion.
That would be great.
I'd move to set a public hearing to consider the formal zoning map and text amendment for SPD number 19 as recommended for adoption by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart? Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. There are various minutes. Anybody have any comments on those minutes? We have spring brush collection beginning on Monday, March 20th. Details are on the city website. This Friday is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. And from what I'm seeing on social media, I think most of our downtown establishments have festivities beginning early in the morning on Friday. And I will be at most of them. So come on down. Yes.
I have just a question, Mr. Kennedy. So in the fall, we added another week to leaf collection because the weather dictated that.
Yes.
It's hung up a little bit. If these wintry conditions prohibit people from being out and collecting brush.
Yeah, we maybe this is not exactly a secret, but we stretch the truth a little bit about those dates. We always have one more run in leaf and brush pickup, and Public Works responds to all the calls. Okay. And yes, I can guarantee you that it will be extended as needed.
Okay. I just wanted to ensure mainly for myself.
And again, we maintain
not when it's snowing.
Yeah, and we
watch basketball, right?
I'll be watching basketball.
And we maintain contract, for brush removal through the vouchers. Just signed that contract not too long ago, so we also will work with residents. We actually will scan and email residents vouchers to go drop off brush, so we make it as easy as possible.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mr.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Working on it.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.